title, my wife called me paranoid for months. Turns out I wasn't even close to the truth. I honestly never thought I'd be the kind of person posting on Reddit about my marriage, but after everything that's happened over the last year, I don't even know what's normal anymore. Maybe I'm writing this because I need to finally get it out of my head. Maybe I just want strangers to tell me I'm not crazy. I'm 34. My wife is 32. We had been together for almost 11 years, married for 7. No kids, mostly because we wanted to be financially stable first. At least that's what we always said. For years I thought we had a solid relationship. Sure, we argued like every couple does. She had a sharp personality. If she got angry, she could tear someone apart with words. Friends used to joke that she could win any argument because she'd never admit she was wrong. I laughed back then because I thought it was just part of who she was. Looking back, I ignored way too many red flags. She lied about little things constantly. Nothing huge at first. She'd say she stopped at the grocery store, but I'd later find out she actually met a friend. She'd claim her phone died, even though I could see she'd been active online. She'd tell stories that somehow changed every time she repeated them. Whenever I'd notice inconsistencies, she'd get defensive immediately. "Why are you interrogating me? You always assume the worst. You're acting insecure." After hearing that enough times, I actually started questioning myself. Maybe I really was overthinking everything. Things changed about 8 months ago. She suddenly became obsessed with privacy. Her phone never left her hand. If she walked to the kitchen, the phone came with her. If she showered, the phone sat on the bathroom counter. She changed her password. Turned off message previews. Started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. I asked her one night if everything was okay. She laughed. "I just value my privacy now. Married people are still allowed to have boundaries." That sounded reasonable. I apologized. Now I wish I hadn't. A month later she started working late. At first it was once a week. Then twice. Eventually 4 nights every single week. Every time I asked about it, there was another excuse. Emergency meeting. Project deadline. Coworker's birthday. Team dinner. Client presentation. Traffic. Car trouble. Her boss needed help. Looking back, I don't think I ever heard the same excuse twice. The strange thing was that she always came home in an unusually good mood. Not exhausted. Not stressed. Happy. Almost glowing. She'd hum while taking off her shoes. Smile at texts. Go straight into the shower. I told myself maybe work was finally going well. Around that time she also stopped wanting physical affection. She always had a reason. Headache. Too tired. Long day. Didn't feel well. Meanwhile she suddenly bought expensive perfume she'd never worn before. Started going to the gym. Bought new dresses. Changed her hairstyle. Even her coworkers commented on social media that she looked different lately. I complimented her. She barely reacted. One Friday she announced she was going on a girls' weekend. Apparently 4 of her friends had rented a cabin. She seemed strangely nervous while packing. I kissed her goodbye. She barely looked at me. That weekend I was cleaning our apartment when I found something odd. A receipt inside one of her jacket pockets. It was from a fancy rooftop restaurant downtown. The date? Tuesday. One of her late work nights. 2 dinners. 2 expensive cocktails. 1 dessert. Almost $300. I stared at that receipt for nearly 10 minutes. Maybe it was work. Maybe the company paid. Maybe. I texted her. "How's the cabin?" She replied almost instantly. "It's great. No signal though, lol. No signal." Yet somehow she answered within seconds. I ignored it. Sunday evening she came home carrying shopping bags. She handed me a mug she'd supposedly bought from the cabin gift shop. Something about it felt off. The price sticker was still attached. It belonged to a souvenir store less than 15 minutes from our apartment. Not anywhere near the mountains. When I pointed that out, she froze for maybe half a second before smiling. "Oh, they have multiple locations." She said it so confidently that I almost believed her. Almost. Later that night, curiosity got the better of me. I searched for the store online. Only one location. Our city. I didn't sleep much. Monday morning, she kissed my forehead before work and said, "I love you." Those words suddenly sounded rehearsed. Over the next few weeks, everything escalated. She became colder, more impatient, more secretive. If I entered a room unexpectedly, she'd flip her phone over. If I asked who she was texting, she'd sigh dramatically. "Can I have one conversation that isn't monitored?" One evening, she accidentally left her smartwatch charging in the living room. A notification popped up. Just one sentence. "Last night was amazing. Already miss you." Before I could read the sender's name, the notification disappeared. When she realized I'd seen it, she rushed into the room faster than I'd ever seen. She grabbed the watch. "It's from Melissa." I knew Melissa. Melissa had been married for 12 years. Melissa definitely didn't text like that. When I pointed it out, my wife rolled her eyes. "You don't understand inside jokes." Another lie. Another excuse. Another reason for me to doubt myself. Then something happened that completely changed everything. 3 days later, I received a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it. I wish I had. The woman on the other end asked, "Are you Emily's husband?" My stomach dropped immediately. She introduced herself as the wife of one of my wife's coworkers. Her voice was shaking. She apologized before saying, "I think our spouses are having an affair." At first I thought it had to be some misunderstanding. Then she said one sentence I'll never forget. "I have pictures." She sent them before I could even respond. The first photo showed my wife laughing across a restaurant table from a man I'd never seen before. The second showed them holding hands. The third showed them kissing outside a hotel. I remember dropping my phone. I remember staring at the wall for what felt like hours. But what destroyed me wasn't even the kiss. It was her smile. She hadn't smiled like that with me in years. I wanted to believe there had to be another explanation. There wasn't. And that was only the beginning. Because the truth I uncovered over the next few days was so much worse than a single affair. Writing. Part 2. The woman who called me, I'll call her Sarah, asked if we could meet somewhere public the following evening. She sounded exhausted. Not angry. Just completely drained. I almost backed out 3 different times. Part of me still wanted to believe this was all some elaborate misunderstanding. It wasn't. Sarah brought a folder. An actual folder. Inside were printed screenshots, hotel reservations, restaurant receipts, parking tickets, and dozens of photos. She told me she'd spent nearly 3 months trying to convince herself she was wrong before finally hiring a private investigator. I felt sick before she even opened it. The investigator had followed her husband for just 4 days. Those 4 days completely destroyed both of our marriages. There were pictures of my wife leaving work early. Pictures of her getting into his car. Pictures of them walking through parks holding hands. Pictures of them checking into hotels during what she had told me were mandatory client meetings. One photo showed them laughing together while shopping for furniture. That image confused me more than anything. Why would 2 people having an affair shop for furniture? Sarah looked at me and quietly said, "I don't think they planned on ending it." I asked what she meant. She swallowed hard. "I think they planned on replacing us." I honestly couldn't breathe for a second. She pointed at another picture. My wife and her husband were looking at couches. Another one showed them inside an appliance store. Another showed them leaving an apartment complex with a real estate agent. That wasn't just an affair. They were building a future. Without telling either of us. I drove home in complete silence. I don't even remember the drive. When I walked into the apartment, my wife was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled. "Oh, you're home early." Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't been living an entirely different life. I looked at her for a long moment before asking, "How was work?" She didn't hesitate. "Horrible. Meetings all day." Lie. I already knew she had left before lunch. I nodded. "I'm sorry." She thanked me. Then she kissed my cheek. That almost broke me more than the pictures. I couldn't understand how someone could lie so effortlessly. That night I barely slept. Instead, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. The next week was like watching a stranger wearing my wife's face. Every lie became obvious. She'd say she was going to the gym. Her gym bag was empty. She claimed she was meeting coworkers. She came home smelling like expensive men's cologne. She said her boss kept extending meetings. I checked her company's public calendar. Her department hadn't had a single meeting that day. Every time I confronted her with something small, she'd immediately flip the conversation back onto me. "Why are you spying on me? You've become obsessed. This marriage is falling apart because you don't trust me." The scary part? For a few seconds every single time, I actually questioned myself. That's how convincing she was. Sarah and I stayed in contact. Neither of us wanted revenge. We just wanted the truth. She eventually showed me something even worse. Phone records. Hundreds of calls. Thousands of messages. Some nights my wife spent over 3 hours talking to him after I had already fallen asleep beside her. I suddenly remembered all those nights she'd claimed she couldn't sleep. She wasn't lying awake. She was talking to him. One afternoon, Sarah called me in tears. "They're together right now." I left work immediately. She sent me the location. A small cafe about 30 minutes away. When I arrived, I didn't go inside immediately. I stood across the street. Then I saw them. My wife. His hand over hers. Both laughing. She reached across the table and brushed something off his face. It was such a small gesture. So natural. So intimate. I realized she hadn't touched me like that in over a year. I walked inside. Neither of them noticed me at first. I stopped beside their table. My wife looked up. Every bit of color disappeared from her face. She whispered my name. The man immediately stood up. "I can explain." I laughed. Actually laughed. "No," I said. "You really can't." People around us had gone completely silent. My wife grabbed my arm. "It isn't what you think." I looked down at her hand. Then back at both of them. "I have hotel photos." Silence. "I have restaurant receipts." More silence. "I know about the apartment." That one hit. Both of them looked at each other for a split second. That's when I knew. It was true. Everything. She immediately switched tactics. She started crying. Not quiet tears. Loud, dramatic sobbing. People in the cafe were now staring at me like I was the bad guy. She said I had been emotionally distant. That I worked too much. That she felt lonely. That none of this would have happened if I had paid more attention to her. For about 5 seconds, I almost apologized. Then I remembered something. Just 2 years earlier, she'd gotten a promotion. I had taken an extra freelance job to help celebrate. I cooked dinner almost every night because she said she was exhausted. I cleaned the apartment while she relaxed. I canceled weekends with friends because she wanted us to spend more time together. I planned vacations. Bought flowers. Never missed our anniversary. I'd spent years trying to make her happy. Nothing had ever been enough. I looked at her and quietly asked, "So when exactly were you planning to tell me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at the other man. He finally spoke. "We didn't mean for this to happen." I couldn't help smiling. "You accidentally booked hotel rooms? Accidentally lied for months? accidentally looked at apartments together? Neither of them said a word. Then came the biggest shock of the entire day. Sarah walked into the cafe. Neither my wife nor her husband had any idea she was coming. When they saw her standing behind me, they both looked completely panicked. Sarah calmly placed a thick envelope on the table. "I've already hired a divorce attorney." She looked directly at her husband. "And your employer now knows you were using company time and expense accounts to hide your affair." His face turned white. Then she looked at my wife. "I hope he was worth it." Without another word, Sarah walked out. I followed a few seconds later. My wife ran after me into the parking lot. For the first time since this nightmare began, she looked genuinely afraid. Not because she had hurt me. Because her carefully built double life had just collapsed. And what she admitted next completely changed everything I thought I knew about our marriage.